If the world ever got to a point where receivers never cut the ball, I'd be very happy.
Pass is intercepted by Eric Colonna. And the captain of their defensive backs there, Eric Colonna.
What made you start Pick Six Athletics in 2020 when you were at Queens?
I really just want to provide guys with whatever they need to succeed at a high level. And I just feel like I have that. It's my mission. I have to do it.
Hey there, my name is Noah Trenton. You're about to listen to my feature interview with Eric Colonna. Eric is a former two-time Queens Gales team captain and the founder of Pick Six Athletics, where he works with defensive backs all over the world, in person and online, to help them improve at the position of DB. In this interview, you hear about Eric's personal and professional growth on how he started his own business and how he got to where he is today. I hope you enjoy. So Eric, thank you for joining me. What made you start Pick Six Athletics in 2020 when you were at Queens?
Yeah, thank you for having me. Back in 2020, we didn't have a season due to the lockdowns, and we're not getting the same development in. I had a bunch of free time, and Pick Six Athletics was an idea I had the year before, but with school and football, I was just too busy, so I never put it to action. When all the time opened up that summer, I actually started it right here on the field, training some guys, posting some clips. I started the account. It was great. All the friends were reposting it, trying to get more followers. And the whole goal for it was to help defensive backs develop. So we didn't have a season. Nobody really had a season. And when you don't play, you miss out on that development. So my goal was to teach younger defensive backs things I learned at the next level to help them develop even quicker than I did before.
From creating that ebook in 2020 to growing your social media to over 100,000 followers across social media platforms and working with defensive backs in high school or collegiate, how did you grow to get to this point?
The biggest tip I can give for growth is just a lot of work. So there's been periods of time, especially when I was starting, where I just post a few times a week. It's talking about social media specifically. Whenever I started posting twice a day or even 3 times a day, even if it was the exact same content, the growth just took off a lot faster. Now that I have a lot more followers, I have to get creative and try new pieces of content out and really try to think about what stands out on social media. But especially for the beginning, even 0 to 100,000 followers on Instagram, really it's just all about work, getting a lot of content in, and then growing the business in person is the same thing. So working on my own skills, so when people see me work out, they know that I'm good at what I do and they want to learn from me, and trying to host more sessions, trying to train more guys, and just be really good at what I do, because the more guys I can help, the happier I am, because that's my goal. But also the more it's going to grow the business, because they'll be telling their friends, teammates to come out and train as well.
With growth that you've had, there had to have been an obstacle or two along the way. Was there any, or how did you overcome them?
I wouldn't say there's been a crazy obstacle with anything that major that happened. The thing about when I started was during COVID, when people had a lot of free time, so it was easy to get a few guys out there to start. And from there, I've been not even training in person that much until coming back to Mississauga in January. So obstacle-wise, there hasn't been any major events. I brought up COVID because if you had a restaurant back in 2020, that's a huge obstacle. You probably went out of business. For me, the biggest obstacle was time management, because being a student athlete, being very committed and trying to become the best football player, school was kind of on the side, but I did commerce at Queens, so it's a lot of academic work. The biggest obstacle was just finding time for everything. So during the seasons, especially, I didn't even post that much content or do that much work on the business. But now, especially that I'm all done school, I'm just going all in on it. And the obstacle I had before of not being able to fully apply myself to it is out of the way, and it's been growing a lot more ever since.
When Eric was ready to start growing Pick Six Athletics, he found himself in the mindset of start and learn as you grow.
Best advice I can give to anybody looking to start a business is just start and don't wait to take action. I'll give credit to one of my former teammates, Chris Osikusi, who runs Switch Mentality. He started that about the same time, right before I did. And it was before any one of my friends really started a business or an Instagram page, which everybody has like a bunch of different things now. And I said, oh, wow, okay, he started. I should probably put this idea to action and really make use of this time. So seeing other guys take steps towards starting their own business or their own venture pushed me to do it. But the biggest thing is when you're starting off, you just have to start. If you wait and you try to make everything perfect, it's just going to delay you. One quick example, if I spend a bunch of time on a social media post and overthink everything, it might not even be better than one that I just film quick and upload. So if you wait too long, analysis by paralysis, you don't want to wait. If you're starting a business, it's really just about moving as quickly as you can, learning along the way, and then iterating where you have to. So pivoting, I was focusing even more when I started out on trying to train everybody, like DBs, receivers, different positions, athletes in general. But then I got really focused on defensive back. I said, this is what I know the best. This is what I consider myself more of an expert in compared to helping everybody. So I'm going to niche down. And that's just one example of a pivot I made along the way. So you just have to start now and then learn as you go. And just like it is in athletics, it's just all about getting 1% better every day. So you can't wait to be perfect before getting into it. You just have to start and just keep improving from there.
To go from a player to a coach or a lead, like you said before, was it at all hard? Because now you were playing at the highest level and now you're training at the highest level. Was there any type of difference, or do you just find it like natural?
Well, being a positional coach, I think it's very similar to just being a player, because when I was playing, and I was playing pretty recently anyways, I was usually training at the field, leading the defensive back workouts with my teammates. So it's pretty similar to what I'm doing now. And the goal was the same, mastering our technique and getting the most out of every break, having the best coverage possible, and just really trying to become technicians for defensive back work. The only difference is now is when I'm at sessions, I'm not doing the work really. Today I was, because we just had a couple guys out here, and I got to keep getting the work, and that's how I keep learning and getting better myself. But now it's mainly just teaching other guys the things I've learned and continue to learn. So it's not like I've made a crazy change to becoming a play caller at a high level school and there's a bunch of pressure to be more of a coach and worry about academics and recruiting and everything like that. Being a positional coach is much more of a smooth transition, because it's just everything I've been working on the past 15 years to build up skill-wise, and now just helping bring other guys on that same path, but a lot quicker.
With Eric's decade plus of experience in the football landscape from playing to coaching, he found that this year working with 50 plus athletes was big in helping him develop his knowledge of football and the position of defensive back.
This past year has definitely been the most I've learned about defensive back though, because teaching other guys, having to actually explain things in a concise way that makes sense, especially when it's a group setting, doing that repetitively so many times to figure out the best way to explain something, seeing mistakes other guys make that I may have found. Hip flips, for example, is something I found natural, so I didn't have to dive too much into it. But then when coaching other guys how to be smooth with hip flips, I have to look a lot more at the technique, think about all the feet, pad level, and everything with it, compared to something that other guys might do really natural, such as I'm not as clean as when I was pedaling opening up on a straight line. So that's something that, just for an example, I've had to take a deep dive and look at my own technique and really break everything down. So there's definitely been a giant learning experience from coaching other guys, because I have to be concise, learn the best way to explain it, and make sure that any mistake that probably work with 100 DBs or linebackers now, every session, somebody's going to do something wrong. So I want to identify it, help them as fast as I can, be able to see it right away and coach them up on it. And that's not you don't get that without actually coaching guys. So aside from everything I've learned before, this has been a huge year of learning for myself, just because I'm exposed to so many more mistakes people do wrong or things people do well. Plus, I'm also watching a lot of film now for just DB receiver play. And while I always watch a bunch of film, but now that I'm making courses inside my app, Lockdown Academy, man coverage course, for example, got 10 different modules for eye discipline, leverage, fit in, look and lead, just all these different things. And I'm looking for teach tape, perfect examples, the best way to coach it up, exactly how you should react or change your technique based off of what the receiver does. And now it's just something that I haven't had to do before. Because just think, as a player, you go out there, you make a lot of good plays, you make some bad plays. What do? You see what you did bad and you improve it. But now it's anything that I see anybody do, I'm trying to coach it up. So it's really just expanded my horizon on how I view defensive back play.
When it comes to people that were around you and supporting you through this process, is there anybody that you would like want to talk about or like really highlight that was like a big part in helping you grow?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of people. So I don't want to know if I want to name, because then the ones I forget will get jealous. But my parents have been super supportive. All my teammates have been super supportive. Anybody, friends, family, nobody's really, we start something and you kind of get I don't know if people are going to think about this.
Yeah.
I started it going into it would have been my third year. So at that point, I started the last couple of games of my first, most of my second year, but I haven't really established myself in the league at all, and people don't really know who I was. So starting it, I knew that, the path I was on, and I'd be a pretty good safety in the OUA. But it's kind of scary at first because you don't know how people are going to see it. If the older teammates are going to be like, bro, what are you starting? Like, you're messing this up. You don't know everything. And it just goes back to my earlier point of just starting now, don't overthink anything and just learn as you go. Because even if you look back on, the average viewer might not really get it, but for DBs, if you look back on my older posts, my footwork was way worse. I wasn't as smooth. I wasn't, as fast.
Yeah.
So it's something that you got to just start early. But everybody's been supportive. Nobody was, mean at all or anything. And my coaches, my teammates especially, guys who would come out with me, be okay with getting filmed, be okay with filming, and everybody's been pretty supportive with it.
Does it at all feel a full circle moment? Because you played on this field at St. Marcellinus a couple years back, and now to coach or to lead players on this field, how does that feel?
Yeah, it definitely is. And it was a great experience playing at St. Marcellinus. We won the ROPSA championship back in 2016. And there's a bunch of great guys that I still talk to this day. So it's really cool to be out here and helping other guys on the same path. And I just think all the time, wow, if I knew this when I was your age, it's just, that's what coaching is all about, right? Teaching guys what you didn't know earlier to help them develop quicker. So it's definitely a cool full circle moment. And always had a great time back when I was playing here and back when I was playing at Queens. And yeah, every time I step on the field, it's nice to just give back to the guys I'm working with.
Have you learned anything about yourself? Like, we talked about the business side and growing it, but yourself personally?
That's a good question. I don't know if I've really thought about that one before. I'd say I've learned a lot about the business side, a lot about football. Learning about myself would be, I don't know if I have a quick answer for that one. I'm going to have to think about that for a sec. It would be that I'm really trying to help a lot of guys develop. And, before as a player, you don't really get in those opportunities. You help younger guys on your team. But just being out here now, it's not, everybody's probably had a coach or a trainer at one point or another, even if it was just for a couple of sessions, where it really seems like they're just in it for the money and take you through a couple of drills and whatever. But I'm learning that I really care about helping guys develop. And if the world ever got to a point where receivers never caught the ball, I'd be very happy. I want to see DBs succeed. Doesn't matter which team you're on. I want to see the DBs win. And I'd say I learned about myself that I have a desire to help guys more than I've really thought about before.
When talking about you never want to see a receiver catch the ball, you've talked to me before about a hot take you have about gunslinging quarterbacks that either turn the ball over or have touchdowns, and what the media will call a 50-50 cornerback. They'll either get the big play or they'll get burned on the route. What's your take on that?
Right. So you saw the post I made recently, and defensive backs, I think we have the hardest position, and it's not like you should play DB thinking, oh, this is so hard. You have to be fully confident in your abilities, and it should feel easy when you get to a really high level. But defensive backs got it hard. Receivers are running at us. They know the route. We don't know it. Quarterbacks, they got to throw picks. They got to throw touchdowns. They get called a gunslinger for doing that. But if we, as defensive backs, have 90% great coverage reps in a game and we lose 10% of the reps, that is a really bad game for a defensive back because he's going to get open, he's going to catch touchdowns. And if you're somebody like Trayvon Diggs, for the example, where you drive routes, you might get a pick, you might take it for a 6, but also you might get beat for a touchdown if you drive it and you're a little bit too aggressive. So the point there that I was making is it's kind of a double standard because quarterbacks can get away with being good here, being bad there. Receivers can get away with running the wrong route. Nothing bad really happens. But as a defensive back, when you mess up, it is a big deal. So you have to be very consistent as a DB. You have to have a short-term mentality and always lock in on the play. And you really just have to be okay with getting beat once in a while because unfortunately that's the position we play. We don't want to, but it happens to everybody.
Hey, you can't be perfect all the time, right?
No.
When it comes to your program, there's programs all over the world, in Canada, USA. How do you find yours is unique or different from the rest?
Right. So I would say in Canada, nobody's even doing DB coaching the way I am here. And I've always been one to ask coaches why and trying to learn as much as I can. And I'm constantly expanding my knowledge. even if I was bad at what I do, nobody's even doing DB specific coaching here. There's great DB coaches that are on different teams like I've had in the past, but to train guys in the off season or outside of practice, it's the only one really here in the area. And I wish there was more of it, because really I want to see football develop. That's the whole goal. If I was just thinking about this today, actually, if there was established DB coaches in the area, if everything was at a high level, I probably wouldn't even be doing this. I really just want to provide guys with whatever they need to succeed at a high level. And I just feel like I have that. It's my mission. I have to do it because nobody is doing it. So that's for Canada specific. For the States, there's a ton of great DB coaches. Some I follow on Instagram. Hey, guys do really high level stuff. I would say what separates us is the detail I get into. So I like breaking down every single step, what everything should look like, and not being too over technical, still letting guys do their thing, because you can't move like robots. And I've made that mistake. My coaches will tell you for quite some time before I learned to just be an athlete and play fast. But I like breaking it down. So when we pedal and brake, where all the steps should be, when we're in man coverage, what our technique should be, our eyes, our hands, looking at the hip, what our pad level should be, how much we should be turned, hip flips, for example, what the step should be with the feet, where my eyes should be, my shoulders, what the arm movement should look like, how I should be turning my body, anything you could break it down to. Tackling and get very detailed of how we're going to run at the receiver, chop our feet, continue to move close. Like, I give a ton of different examples, but really what I find is the level of detail, because kids will do things right, guys will do things wrong, and they might be really good at one part, but because they don't have that consistent, or they don't have that full foundation or understanding of something, they're going to be good, be bad here, and be inconsistent. What I find really helps is when you could explain everything exactly how something should look, and then still letting them be athletes in the process. So to answer your question, it would just be the level of detail. And that's something I pride myself on, especially in my online training when guys could follow along on the apps. It's extremely detailed, working on all the angles, working on all the steps. I want it to be just my overall philosophy for defensive back training is on the field, when we're working out, we're going through all the types of skills, all the types of movements from any angle. So anything that could possibly happen, we're getting good at it. So when it happens in the game, you are smooth. Now, obviously, we focus on what matters the most and helping guys improve their weaknesses on, but any type of movement you should be able to do. So I'm very detailed, like hitting all the angles, explaining the technique a lot, and just giving guys that football IQ side of the game that's hard to find somewhere else.
When you look at how you can even grow this further, fixed athletics, do you have an idea on where you want to go with this?
Right. So my online goal, I want to get in 2025 to 200 athletes that I'm working with. Right now it's about 15, but it's good because it's scalable. So because I'm making courses and programs, I don't have to work with guys one-on-one as much, because I teach them how things should look in the courses and teach them about the techniques. And then when it comes to the programs, it's easy to follow along. So I really want to grow that and just help guys all around the world. I got one guy in Australia signed up, a couple guys in Germany, like all around the world. For in-person, it would just be being more consistent. And next year in the summer, I'll be doing memberships. So it's come as many times as you want a month. This year was a lot of drop-in. So, they're just not making the commitment. And then the last part of it would just be doing more camps. So I hosted one last year in Colonna, BC. This year, I'll probably be going to Ottawa, Montreal, the different places around, just to expand to different areas.
I think Fixed Athletics is going to be great. I can't wait to see a future CFL, NFL player come from your training and make some key interceptions or big plays. Thanks, Eric.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.